On the very day Prime Minister Modi walked alongside Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping in Tianjin, US President Donald Trump decided to fire off a Truth Social post, this time accusing India of running a totally one-sided trade relationship with America. Trump's post wasn't just about trade numbers, it came with complaints about Russian oil, India doing more business with Russia than USA, and a warning that India's offer to cut tariffs might be too late. And if that wasn't enough, his advisor Peter Navarro stepped in hours later, branding India as Maharaja of tariffs and questioning PM Modi's diplomacy with Russia and China. So what's behind this outburst? Is India really to blame, or is this Washington's pressure politics dressed up as economic outrage? I'm Shivani Singh, and in this segment we'll take a closer look at that. On Truth Social, Trump wrote, and I'll quote this part, "What few people understand is that we do very little business with India, but they do a tremendous amount of business with us. In other words, they sell us massive amounts of goods. They're biggest client, but we sell them very little. Until now, a totally one-sided relationship, and it has been for many decades. It has been a totally one-sided disaster," he said. He went on to say that India charges the highest tariffs in the world, making it impossible for American businesses to compete. Trump also mentioned that India has offered to cut tariffs to zero, but he dismissed it as too late. Now, what this really reflects is Washington's frustration. India has resisted lopsided deals that demand open markets without real reciprocity. What makes Trump's outburst even more interesting is the timing. Prime Minister Modi was seen walking with Putin and Xi at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Tianjin, his first visit to China in 7 years. The images were significant, PM Modi talking shoulder to shoulder with Russia and China, while US was busy calling India a tariff Maharaja. Coincidence? Well, maybe, but maybe Trump wanted to underline America's displeasure as India deepens its ties with Russia and keeps its doors open to China for strategic balancing. Now let's talk tariffs. Trump has already imposed a 50% tariff on Indian exports. Half of that, according to the White House, is a reciprocal tariff for India's duties on US goods. The other half, a penalty for India buying discounted oil from Russia. And then came Peter Navarro, Trump's longtime trade advisor. Speaking outside the White House, Navarro said India was, and I quote, "the Maharaja of tariffs." He accused New Delhi of denying reality and profiteering from Russian crude by refining and selling them into other markets at higher prices.
Here's the problem with India. It's a two-pronged problem. There's 50% tariffs on India. 25% of them is the reciprocal tariff because of unfair trade. 25% is the fact that India is buying oil from Russia. So start with the reciprocal trade tariffs. The problem is that India literally is the Maharaja of tariffs. It has the highest tariffs of any major country in the world, and it's in denial about that. It tries to tell everybody out there that that's not true when it is demonstrably true. So they should engage with us. They haven't done that as Japan, Korea, the Philippines, Indonesia, the European Union has. They simply think they continue having their way with us. President Trump's not going to allow that. Now,
so the message here is, if India buys from Russia, America makes India pay. The irony here is hard to ignore. Washington insists India must reduce its energy dependence on Moscow, while Europe, America's closest ally, quietly kept buying Russian LNG and fertilizers throughout the war years. India, however, has consistently defended its energy policy, stressing that purchases are based on national interest and energy security. At the same time, India's refining capacity plays a stabilizing role in global markets, ensuring supply to regions that would otherwise face shortages. Trump's trade advisor Navarro even mocked Prime Minister Narendra Modi for appearing alongside Putin and Xi in China.
The leader of the biggest democracy in the world with the two biggest authoritarian dictators in the world, in Putin and Xi Jinping. That doesn't make any sense. I'm not sure what he's thinking, particularly since India has been in a Cold War and sometimes a hot war with China for decades.
When Washington sees India with Russia and China, it raises concerns. Navarro's remarks made it clear that US is uneasy about being sidelined in India's balancing strategy. Back home, Trump is facing growing backlash. The Supreme Court is reviewing whether his sweeping tariffs imposed under emergency powers are even legal, and a lower court has already ruled that most of them are not. Trump's team believes that the odds are still in their favor. Listen to this.
I think we're in very good shape. Bottom line is we're optimistic that the Supreme Court will rule on this. We don't have to, the tariffs will remain in place at least to October and perhaps beyond until the Supreme Court rules on this.
So now, with his trade strategy under legal fire, what better way to rally support than pick a big target like India? For Trump, this plays into the larger narrative: America versus unfair traders, America versus rising powers, America versus, well, almost everyone. So, is India really running a one-sided trade relationship with the US? The numbers tell a more nuanced story. Yes, India exports more to the US than it imports, but that's true for many other US partners. Trade imbalances exist even with allies like Germany, Japan, and South Korea. Second, Trump blames tariffs, but India's average applied tariffs have been steadily declining over the last decade. They are higher than the Western standards, but yes, they're nowhere near the exaggerated picture that US is painting. And third, the Russia oil argument. India has been upfront that it will buy where it gets the best deal to keep fuel affordable for its 1.4 billion people. If that happens to be Russia's crude at a discount, that's a sovereign decision. After all, energy security isn't about pleasing Washington, it's about keeping the lights on in our cities. So what do we have here? A US president targeting India with unfair tariffs of 50%, blaming India of what he calls one-sided disaster, while his advisor ridicules PM Modi's diplomacy, all on the very day India projects itself on a world stage with Russia and China. So, is this the beginning of a trade war between India and the US, or just another Trump tantrum before the Supreme Court rules out his tariff powers? We'll keep tracking this story for you. For now, India seems unfazed, Trump seems fired up, and Navarro seems to be auditioning for maybe another season of trade war theatrics. Stay tuned and don't forget to drop your thoughts in the comments. Should India give in to US pressure or keep securing the best deals for its energy needs? Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next report.